トゥーデウスの子猫が欲しいにゃん。
Boys, it's time. It's time to talk about more isekai.
Oh shit.
If there's one thing I know about the anime community, it's that us weebs love to argue over stupid, mundane topics regarding anime. These arguments can range from disagreeing with someone's opinion to starting World War III in 0.4 seconds because some random bastard called Kirito trash. Within such a community, it's truly special when a certain anime comes around that viewers with disgusting, criminal taste as well as the ones with average yet refined taste can enjoy equally. Of course, the anime I'm talking about is none other than Mushoku Tensei. Over the course of my anime journey, I have watched a fuck ton of isekai, among which there were a few great shows that I loved and a lot of hot garbage that I secretly enjoyed, although questioning my entire existence in the process. Through this wisdom, I quite often get questions from beginners wanting isekai recommendations. During such situations, the general consensus is to test the waters with some mainstream titles, since it's unlikely for them to like any of the more cultured options if they didn't find the popular ones to their liking. Among these mainstream isekai, one show I would never recommend for newcomers is Mushoku Tensei. Unless you've watched isekai beforehand, the anime at first glance will seem incredibly generic. And trust me, the dirty scenes do not help. If a poor normie soul ever sits through this, the way they describe it would be, it all began with tits, which blossomed into panties, magic, and jaw-dropping animation. The little hope I saw was quickly ruined by sex. God damn, she's horny.
Huh? You're cheeky. Do you even know who I am?
The most annoying redhead little bitch and pedophilia. Some potential was seen through a teleportation disaster, but all hope was extinguished when they showed grooming, pedophilia, bestiality, and panties. We see some nut-busting bread animation, which is arguably the best part of the show, but the usual returns shortly after with pedophilia, breathtaking animation. Where the fuck did this come from? Sex, and you guessed it, more pedophilia. You might have noticed that something is obviously wrong here. Why does Mushoku Tensei get so much love when the common reaction might say otherwise? The answer, in fact, is clear to the trained eye of a weeb that spent way too much time watching anime. They know that Mushoku Tensei didn't do anything exceptional. It's called the grandfather of isekai for a reason. After all, it was the initial isekai to popularize the genre. Its success can be attributed to one thing only. Mushoku Tensei is what isekai should have been. Above all, it's what the genre is all about. The early roots of isekai saw characters wanting to find their way back to Earth. It's an understandable, straightforward motive since they had precious memories and people to return to. However, as time progressed, the motive took a complete 180 and made characters not want to go back. Now, I've always wondered as to what may have caused this change, and that answer might just be Mushoku Tensei. For the first time in anime, we have a protagonist that has genuinely zero reason to be liked, has hit rock bottom in every metric, and sees no point in living. When such a person is given a second chance, a fresh start in redeeming himself, why would he decide to find his way back to the mess that was his past life? This approach was the birth of modern isekai. The success of this new outlook subsequently got writers to blatantly copy everything from the loser protagonist to the setting and world building from head to toe. Surprisingly though, the original still utterly destroys the countless authors that copied it due to a fatal flaw. The only things that were copied were what lied on the surface. This would normally be perfectly fine, but not in this case. You see, Mushoku Tensei was never about the fantasy, setting, or even the horny scenes. The best way to describe it would be like saying Mushoku Tensei is what would happen when you bring a lost cause from the real world and give them a second chance at life in a new one. Sounds stupid, doesn't it? I just described every isekai's premise. You know what? Let's explain this better through a scenario. Picture this. You are a regular individual who loves video games and anime. On one fine day, you are met with a grave accident on your way to work. You lie there on the brink of death, unable to move a muscle, with warm blood seeping out of your body. What would you feel during such a situation? Fear? Pain? Excitement? No. Pure shock. For a small moment, you would plainly exist in confusion, unable to think, feel, or hear anything. You regain consciousness only to find yourself in an entirely different world. The rules, environment, people, food, culture, even the air is different. As you explore this new world, you come across something that makes you question your eyes in disbelief. There it was, in all its glory, something you've fantasized your entire life. Painting. Magic. I want you to visualize the emotions that you'll feel if this was reality. That youthful vigor, immersed in the fantasy, filled to the brim with excitement and wonder. That otherworldly, pun intended, feeling of awe. Too many isekais fail in expressing these sensations and instead opt for simple acceptance. Take any subpar isekai and remove the aspect of reincarnation. You'd find that it doesn't substantially change the plot. At that point, it becomes less of an isekai and leans more towards a simple fantasy. What makes an isekai evidently interesting is the notion that you, the protagonist, have lived a life in a different world prior to the one you're living in right now, and have your memories still intact. Everything from your shitty personality to that colossal dump you took yesterday is still fresh in your mind. Your memories, insecurities, traumas, and that one cringy thing you did in 3rd grade influence your actions in the fantasy world. This concept is just invisible to modern isekai. The protagonist, who's always a good-for-nothing loser, forgets how to be awkward and creepy and gains unparalleled self-confidence and social skills the second they get isekai'd. Not Mushoku Tensei. Our protagonist Rudius is the epitome of a worthless piece of shit. When such a protagonist happens to get isekai'd, guess what? He's still a vile, sickening human being. He's unable to follow social standards and set boundaries, grooms young children for the purpose of getting laid in the future, sexually fantasizes underage girls as he spies on them. The list goes on. Every disgusting crime in existence has probably been envisioned by his dumbass at some point of time. Heck, this bastard was making it rain while the rest of his family were attending a funeral. In spite of this, I still find his character extremely captivating. He might be a low-life bastard, but at least he's aware of it. He knew how fucked up he was and had practically accepted his fate when, out of nowhere, he gets another shot to fix everything. He understands its value and wholeheartedly tries to improve himself. There may be mishaps along the way, but without them, it wouldn't feel genuine. All the characters are given excessive care no matter how small of a role they may play. Each and every one of them act as a puzzle piece and coexist in harmony, bringing a much greater setting to life. They all have their own flaws and no one is perfect, which is what makes them so likable. This creates unpredictable and surprising scenarios which the show utilizes to maximum effect. The best examples I can think of are of Eris after the Dragon God incident, which led to her leaving Rudius, and Rudius himself, who struggles to come to terms with his loneliness during season 2. Speaking of season 2, here we are at last, after a 2-year-long wait for the sequel. Although there are some unfavorable changes to the production staff, so far everything looks great. What's crazy is that this still seems like only the beginning to a vast, memorable tale. The story still has a long way to go, and I see this going strong for another 3 seasons with ease. To end this video on a bold note, I'll call it right here. This anime, if executed in the same fashion as season 1 until completion, will prove to be both the greatest isekai of all time, as well as an anime that might as well define a generation of anime fans. The only way I see Mushoku Tensei fuck up is if the staff members get ridiculously horny and go too far with the cultured scenes. Next thing we know, it's gonna pull in interspecies reviewers and we'll have to watch the second half of the show in Hentai Haven. Kids, please don't look that up.